Welcome, Buff fans. I'm joined by Matt Smith. And Matt, how are you today?
It's 2026, so I'm glad to be done with 2025.
Yeah,
That's a good thing. But yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. It's a little brisk. I mean, we've had a ridiculously unusually warm winter here.
yeah,
So getting a little bit of a cool air breeze, it's like, oh, that's right. That's what it's supposed to be right now. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm doing well. I'm excited for a monster weekend. We're both representing here.
I was
You
just
with
gonna
the
say,
Broncos, me with
yeah,
the Bears, and excited for Saturday and Sunday. That'll be great. And just kind of getting my feet up under me again after spending, 6 weeks down in Denver doing radio. So,
yeah. I was gonna mention, we're both representing the teams we grew up watching, and
mm,
you have obviously followed both of them, being here in Denver. So,
yeah.
which of these teams win this weekend?
That's a great question. I'm getting more nervous about the Broncos as time gets close. I was just reading, I think it's Carl Cheffers is a referee on the broadcast, is or a referee for the Broncos game is 5-0 for Buffalo when they're underdogs, and that's what it is. And they just got a couple of guys back from IR, and it's like, oh, they didn't need reinforcements there. And they got Ed Oliver back, who's one of their best defensive tackles, and Curtis Samuel, and they've needed help at receiver, and he's back. And so a little bit nervous about that one because it is Josh Allen. Although I don't know if you watched that Jacksonville game much last week, but he
I
got beat
didn't.
up, man. He got beat
Yeah,
up. His finger is he smacked his finger on a helmet. He's got like a calf, a knee, a foot. So the hope here is that you can kind of make him have to beat you, I want to say. If Buffalo runs the football, I think Denver's in real trouble. So it's going to be a big game for the Broncos. They've had a couple of weeks off now. They didn't look good at the end of the year. They were playing teams that kind of had just mailed it in. And so they got to gear it up for a competitive game, which it's been. And since the Jacksonville game, they've had to play an opponent of this quality, which is over a month ago. So
yeah, and
we'll see.
I actually, that's the one game I went to this year. I took my son.
Yeah, that's
A
right.
friend of mine gave me tickets over the summer, and we were excited to go to see Travis, who was
Right.
actually hurt.
Right.
But we got to see BJ Green, and
Yeah.
I mean, Broncos got blown out in that game. I mean, Jacksonville took it to him, and so it's funny. I have an Ed Oliver bobblehead, by the way,
Is that right?
from
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
when he was at Houston, I
Yep.
mean, he was just terrorizing people. And because I'm a Heisman voter,
Right.
Houston they sent Heisman voters like this bobblehead. I don't know where it is, but like Ed Oliver on a horse because he had a horse named Oreo. And
That's
it's like Ed
awesome.
Oliver on a horse, and the horses had bobbles as well.
Why did CU miss the boat for Travis? I mean, I'd love the Travis Hunter bobblehead with him like with the fishing rod that also bobbled.
That would be
Something
cool.
like that.
They
That would
didn't
have
do
been
the bobblehead.
funny.
They did do the Heisman campaign with him and
Yeah.
Shador, but yeah,
No,
somewhere
they
around
did a
there,
great job. They did a great job. I just like that
yeah,
one. That's a funny
yeah.
one.
I'll
We'll
have to
see, bro.
find
We'll
it.
see.
I'll have to find it. I've got it somewhere around here. This Ed Oliver one. Anyway. The other thing
Yeah.
is that makes me nervous for the Broncos is, I mean, uh, with Josh Allen, he's been so good in the NFL for a long time, but he's always had like Patrick Mahomes in his way,
Right.
And this year it's like there's no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar
Lamar.
Jackson.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're the star.
Yeah.
Go take it, Josh. And so that's gonna be a tough one. But real quick,
Should be fun though.
I mean, obviously, Buff fans tuning in to hear us talk about the Buffs, but let me ask about your Bears. Are you confident? I don't need analysis. I'm just curious, as a longtime Bears fan, are you confident or are you nervous? Because the Bears just aren't usually good, and here they are, like they've won a playoff game, Matt.
Yeah. I expected them to beat Green Bay. Green Bay was pretty banged up at the end of the year.
Yeah,
And so that was my expectation for this playoff run. It's
yeah,
obviously to win the division in year two and year one with Ben Johnson is, year two for Caleb, year one for Ben is impressive. I expected them to beat the Packers, and then I thought to myself, anything after that is gravy. Look, that Rams team that's coming in for a large portion of this season, everybody was like, "Oh, this is the best team in the NFL." However, it's supposed to be like -1 with 20-mile-an-hour winds coming off the lake, which will probably feel like -10. Good luck. I was reading in Matt Stafford's last like 12 cold weather games, he's 1-11. So look, I don't have expectations. I'm not bold enough to call it. I'll be pulling really hard for both of them. I'm nervous as hell for both of them,
yeah,
but it would be amazing to watch both of them roll over into the next weekend. Where it gets tricky is if for some reason they both get on some sort of miracle run here the next couple weeks, and they're both facing off in Santa Clara. I think I might have to go to my first ever Super Bowl if that happens. I'm not
yeah.
exactly sure, but it'd be tough to pass up.
Yeah, and hey, you got to enjoy it before they become the indoor Gary Bears, right?
Oh
Gary and
God, if
the
that happens, I
sorry,
swear to God.
I don't need to open up a wound
I
there.
know. How stupid do you have to be as NFL ownership to be making that a huge storyline during a miracle playoff run? Like, I mean, this is why I hate the McCaskies. I've always hated the McCaskies. They don't have enough money to be NFL owners in 2026, so they're just essentially letting Indiana bribe them to bring the anyway. It's just
Right.
it drives me up the wall.
Well, I'm sure
Anyway,
that could be a whole other podcast right
yes,
there.
that could be a whole other pod. It's just Matt's
And me
rants.
just kind of ask you about it and just kind of
Yeah, yeah.
like just
I,
sitting back and
I mean, have you
listening to
ever
you.
been to Gary, Indiana? Have you ever been to Gary, Indiana?
No, I've spent very little time in Indiana.
Yeah, it's good for you.
I went to
When
South Bend. I went to a Notre Dame game once.
Oh, that's cool. Yes, my I had family in South Bend, and when I was a kid, my grandmother used to take me on the South Shore Electric to to South Bend, but the train would stop in Gary, Indiana. And when the doors opened, she'd always go, "Well, hold your breath," because it's just like this industrial town that makes dog food and tires, and it's not the gem of the Midwest, not
Yeah.
like some of these other Big 12 locations that we get to frequent, but yeah, it would be a huge mistake, but
Well,
it is what it
there's
is.
been a lot of years in recent years that if you open that train door, the Bears, you have to hold your breath around them because you'd be like, "Ooh,
That's
it
right. That's
stinks."
right. That's right. Yeah. But we're
So
turning the tide now.
yeah,
Caleb is there, the chosen
that's
one.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
The chosen one. Let's
Yeah.
move on to the Buffs, Matt. The last time we did podcast, we really were reacting to just the mass exodus of players leaving this roster. We actually, I think we taped it the day the portal opened and
Yeah.
posted on the third. And the day we taped it, Buffs had not added any transfers yet, but they had just lost a whole bunch. Now they have added 36 transfers since the last time we did this. They've lost a couple other big
Yeah.
ones. Jordan Seaton being the main
Oh,
one, Carter Stoutmeyer,
yeah.
but they've added 36 guys, and so we want to kind of just give our assessment of what they're doing so far. The portal closes tonight at midnight, and there might be more. I mean, there will be more additions. You can add players after today. It's just today's the last day to go into the portal. We'll do this again once everything kind of wraps up. But Matt, as you've watched it, followed every bit of it going through, just before you kind of break down different spots, your general assessment of what CU's done to this point. Well, actually, let me ask you this. As I asked this, there was some place that they had the winners and losers in the portal. They had Colorado as a loser, which I completely disagree with. So let me just ask you, where do you think they are?
Yeah, it's complicated. So we've talked about this, and I think in our last episode we really got in depth about how college football has shifted even from last year to this year. It's
Yeah,
different. And so clearly Colorado's approach had to be different. We just didn't know which direction they were going to go because, as we've spoken about at length, their resources aren't the elite resources in college football. And quite frankly, Coach Prime doesn't really operate his program, even if he had that kind of money, just doling it out,
yeah,
willy nilly. It's very selective normally. And obviously, last year with him not being on campus, they weren't able to land some of those guys. I think that otherwise they might have. So they had to change their approach. And he told us there would be changes coming and that they audited the program. And I remember after the Utah game, we got back to Boulder for that Tuesday press conference. And obviously they just got blown out. And I remember asking him, what do you do? Because he kept saying, I'm going to hold myself accountable, hold myself accountable, hold myself accountable. And I asked him, I said, well, how do you do that? And he talked about going through the entire building and figuring out, okay, we need to do it this way. We need to do it that way. I want to change this guy. I need to change this coach. And he told us he did it over that late bye week in the season. And so we were curious to see what it would look like. And then obviously he left us with this was the last supper after, Kansas State. So we expected a lot of changes and we've gotten them clearly.
yeah,
What I see here, I see two sides of it. Okay, clearly the majority of the ads are from a lower level. Okay, group of five, FCS. I don't know the numbers. Do you have the exact numbers right now?
no, I don't have it. I could sit here and
It's no
count,
big. I
but
mean, it's irrelevant, but it's more
yeah,
from the lower levels than it is from the Power Four levels. And so,
yeah,
one thing that we talked about heading into last year is how the 2025 group was shaping up was really a lot of P4 guys who were sitting next to the water boy, as opposed to maybe heading into it in the 2024 offseason where you got proven producers, guys like Chidozie Nwankwo, from Houston, and guys who had actually contributed at the power forward level, Will Shepherd, those type of players. Come to find out, a big part of the reason those guys came here, which we suspected, but it is really, I think, played out over the last 2 years, was Travis and Shador. So
Yeah.
last year, they tried to go for the P4 guys too, and maybe some projects that hadn't developed or hadn't played. And, some of those guys did okay, but the majority of them really fizzled out if they did.
Are you still there, Matt? You froze.
Are you
Are you
there?
there? Yeah, you
Yeah,
froze
I'm
up
here
for a
now.
minute.
Okay. You might just have to cut that part out. Um,
Okay.
or unless you don't care, which is fine with me. So John Slaughter, is kind of the poster boy as one of those guys who I think did actually have some success, but there
Yeah.
really weren't that many others. And the reason why I bring up this two sides of it is because I can look at this and I can see, okay, well, they brought up a bunch of lower level guys. Not all these guys are going to pan out. I think
Right.
that it was, you could get lucky, but you have a lot of undersized guys at different positions, a lot of guys who weren't recruited at the highest levels before, or maybe were counted out before. And you've had a coaching staff that has not been able to take an average team to a good team, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
there's one side of it where you're concerned, where you're like, well, you've got some interesting pieces here, but you're going to have to coach these guys up to get this
Right.
out of them. So that's part of it. But I also see another part of it, and I've been thinking about this, and I'm sorry, this is just going to take a second here. The What is the transfer portal now, right? Like, what is that in 2026? Aren't there? I was reading, how many kids were there total? Like over 10,000. I
Yeah, it was
think I
something like
saw a
that.
tweet like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah.
So clearly, there's a lot of fluff in there, and
Yep.
it's probably not the kindest word to use when you're talking about college athletes, but in a minor professional sports business, which this is essentially turned into, I think that's appropriate. There's a lot of
Right.
fluff in there, and there's a who is using the transfer portal, and what are they using it for? Well, we're seeing a lot of P4 guys who are either not playing or not happy, just try and go to a different school for a different place. And okay, well, maybe there was a reason you weren't playing at your last school, and it wasn't
Hmm.
just because you were behind somebody else. Maybe
Right.
it was because you don't have a great work ethic, you don't take coaching well, who knows? Maybe you didn't have great coaching and it wasn't on the player at all, it was on the circumstance. So I think there's a sect of guys that are P4 guys who are just trying to make lateral moves to try and maybe find other places to go or other um, opportunities, maybe a little bit more money here or there, but just I would say like your power four backups, those type of
Right.
guys. Then you obviously have your elite stars, and those guys are coming from a couple of places. They're either top quarterbacks, they're either top running backs, top skill positions, or they're trying to level up, i.e., your Jordan Seatons, right?
Yep.
Your guys
Hmm.
who went to a school who's a little bit smaller, okay, didn't really pan out exactly the way they thought it would. Let me level up here and go get, a bunch more money and a chance to compete for a college football playoff. Guys who are going to Oregon, Tech, Miami, schools like that, Ohio State, schools
Yep.
like that. So,
Or
which is
or
not a big,
sorry, sorry to cut you off, but that's what most of those quarterbacks are, right? They're guys that, I mean, there's just a market for a strong quarterback. So those guys are jumping in the portal. They may not want to leave their school, but they know I can jump in the portal like a Josh Hoover. He's going to jump in the portal and go to Indiana and make a ton more money. So there's
and
that.
probably have a better chance to compete for
Right.
something than he would have at TCU.
Right.
So
Yep.
I think there's multiple reasons for it. But again, I don't think that's a very big group of players. Certainly not in the grand scheme of the 10,000.
Except the quarterback spot.
Right, right.
I
Except
think that's where most of that is.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, yeah.
But
But I'm
yeah,
talking about like elite safeties and
yes, yes,
corners and
yes.
running backs,
Right.
like the top of the top,
Right. Right.
those
Right.
type,
Hmm.
like a Nick Marsh who transferred to Indiana. I think he was from Michigan State. I want to say Nick Marsh. Maybe that's wrong. Anyway, but my point is like the cream of the crop, right?
Or like
The
Raleek
guys,
Brown
yes,
from
Raleek Brown.
ASU.
Yes,
Yep. Hmm.
yes, 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 yes. So guys like that, which again, very small percentage of what we're
Right. Right.
talking about
Yep.
here.
Hmm.
Colorado won't be in play for those guys. Not
Right.
going to happen. They have been priced out of it. completely. That's just not going to be where they're going to swim. They had a couple of five-star guys in Juju and Jordan, and they couldn't keep Jordan.
Hmm.
And, luckily they've kept Juju at least for 2026. So
Yeah.
I think what we've realized is they can't swim with the
Well, hold your
sharks.
breath for another 8 hours. We'll
I
see.
know, I know, I know, I know. Trust me, I get it. But I mean, that would be as big of a shock as,
Yes, it
as
would.
anything that I've
Yeah.
seen in a while. So even more so than Jordan Seaton. I think that you and I were kind of waiting for the other
I'm not
shoe to
sure anybody
drop.
was shocked about Jordan Cena. I think
Right.
for me, the shock was that it took so long.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I think a lot of Buff fans expected to hear Jordan go into the portal on January 2nd or 3rd.
Yep.
The fact that he didn't, a week, 10 days into it, that's when people got excited. Oh, he's going to stay.
Yeah. So
So that's why it
again,
became a shock.
sure, sure. So again, those are the guys you're no longer in play for.
Yeah.
Unless for
Hmm.
some reason they get real lucky or once every couple of years maybe they allocate and try and grab somebody like that. But it feels
Yep.
like at least in the iteration that we see college athletics in right now, they're probably priced out of that range.
Right.
Okay, so who's your pool then? Who are you going after?
I
Okay,
will add
well,
real quick. I want to add to,
please.
sorry to cut off your point.
No, you're
I think
fine.
another type of player that's in the
Yeah,
portal are those guys who didn't want to leave their school, but their coaches said, you know what,
sure.
we're going to move on from you.
I
And
think
so
I lumped
you,
them into the P4, that first group, right? That P4
sure,
backups. Yeah,
but I just want to make that point that there are
yeah,
some that maybe didn't want to leave, but were kind of
yeah.
told,
Or got cut. I mean,
or I mean,
quite
essentially,
frankly.
that's what
Yeah,
essentially it is. Like,
yeah.
and I'm not talking about just Colorado. I'm talking
No,
everywhere. It's like, you know what, we're going to get better at linebacker or whatever, and you should move on. So there's
right.
that group as well. So
Yes, I agree. And like I said, in my mind, I consider that like
that's
P4
all the same
backups.
area. Yeah, yeah,
I
yep,
do. So I think
yeah,
you've got like P4 backups and guys
yep,
who it
hmm,
just didn't really work out at their first stop or maybe even their second at this stage. And then
yep.
you've got your elite guys. So
The
there's
level
two
up
groups.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Hmm.
then you've got the two groups, but there's a different level up category. There's guys who are going into the portal because they're betting on themselves and they're trying to jump up a level,
Hmm.
who are very hungry. They've had
Hmm.
to earn it every step of the way, and they've been recognized in some way, shape, or form based upon what they were able to accomplish at lower levels.
Yeah.
Those are probably the guys that you do want to target if you're a school like Colorado is in a position like they're in right now. And so as I sat with it a little bit more, I thought to myself, well, maybe Coach Prime, and you look at Indiana and everybody's like, well, they have a lack of four-star, they have a lack of this, lack of that. But we have to remember, I mean, a big chunk of that team came over with Signetti from James Madison, and they really helped set a culture. This is what, year two for him there? Year three?
This is year two. Yeah.
This is year two, right? And so they still have a good chunk of some of those guys that he
Yeah.
came over with,
Hmm.
but also they're in the Big Ten and they've got a lot more resources
Yep.
that they have at their disposal. And by the way, the biggest living alumni base in the country, which I had no idea about. I mean, there's over 805,000 living alumni in the United States that went to Indiana. That's
Right.
insane. So knowing
And
that,
one
yeah,
of
go
them
ahead.
being Mark Cuban.
That you just took my next one. Knowing that and knowing that Mark Cuban is bankrolling things, I think everybody needs to stop pointing to Indiana as like, oh, look at these choir boys, Signetti, who did it through the mud in the FCS. Like that's
Yeah.
not really what happened. Okay,
Right.
he's got a billionaire bankrolling, and even Cuban said, "I don't care. I'll give you the check. Just tell me. I want to
Right.
win."
Right.
So
Hmm.
we need to take Indiana off the Cinderella scale. Quite frankly,
Right.
I
Can Stan Kroenke become a huge Buff fan?
yeah, somebody. I mean,
Something like
Stan,
that.
Robson, Walton, Greg Penner, one of
All
them.
right.
So you've got this other category of guys who are trying to level jump. Now, look, these are gamblers because there's a reason, most likely, that these players went to lower levels. Grades, physicality, athleticism, skill, talent, all of this, right?
Yep.
So typically, when you've been recognized as all conference, it doesn't mean that instantly it's going to translate. Like
Yep.
there will be a chunk of these guys they bring up from the lower level that just won't work. Like that will happen. So even if they were all conference, I mean, we saw it last year with Reggie Hughes and Martavius French, who
Right.
you pointed out to me. Like the Buffs added the kid Tyler Martinez at linebacker from New Mexico State, who earned second team all conference 2 years ago?
In
Isn't that
24,
correct?
because he was hurt this year,
Right.
so he's second team all conference in the Sun Belt in 2024. First team was Reggie Hughes
Right.
at the same
So
spot.
so I don't want people out there thinking, well, look at just because he was productive at a lower level means it's going to
Right.
translate. No.
The
However,
other, I'm
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
I keep
Oh,
cutting
you're
you off,
fine. You're
but
fine.
the
This is
linebacker,
a long
yeah,
point, so I have
right.
no problem. I have
The
none.
linebacker comparison was interesting to me because I texted you this, a week or so ago. There's the Martinez and Reginald Hughes, same conference, all conference the same year. Hughes was first team, Martinez second team. Um, Martavius French last year at UTSA, yeah,
Yep.
top 10 in the country in tackles for loss was 17 and a half.
Hmm.
Second team all conference in this conference.
Right.
Gideon Lampron
Yep.
from Bowling Green, first team all conference in his conference, top 10 in the country with 17 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the linebacker comparison is really interesting because it's the same profile
It's
of
eerily
kid.
similar. Yeah.
It's very similar. So yeah, so that's just interesting to me. So that's one thing I look at. To your point, like, don't just think, okay, the all conference guys are going to translate because we saw it last year. The same
Right.
profile of linebackers couldn't keep their jobs.
Right. And so, again, it doesn't mean that that's going to be the way it is across the board,
Yeah,
but that will happen. I mean,
yeah,
again, and this is something that I've been trying to warn people. It's like you and I have been around this Colorado program for a while now, you longer than me in some cases with football here. And so here's the funny part is like think back through the years to some of these JUCO guys. Some of them have worked out. Some of the FCS guys have worked out. I
hmm
think of like a Delrick Abrams type who, that was
yeah,
McIntyre did well with some of those guys that he brought up from a lower
yeah.
level, but not all of them hit for sure. And,
Javier
there's
Edwards was one,
100%.
but it
Yeah,
took
that's a
year
that's a
until
good
year
example.
two.
Yeah,
Year
it took
two is when he
to
hit.
year
Yep.
two. And so it's a challenge, right? And, this is a big jump in athleticism from the leagues that they were playing in.
Yeah.
However, I think you can make the argument that this was the best way forward for Colorado, considering what they have to work with. Now, is this a team that's going to compete for a Big 12 title? No, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Is this a team that can win 6 games? That's the hope. That's
Mhm.
the hope. And you're going to hear a lot of, other places be like, Buffs are back, 9-10 wins.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're a realist out there, I mean, don't drink that Kool-Aid, okay? I
Yeah.
mean, respectfully. That's just not a reality in Colorado's position
If they
until
do it, they've overachieved,
to a real degree.
but do
To a
not
real
expect
degree.
it. Do not
No,
expect it.
no. However, where I am encouraged is because Brennan Marion is in the fold with some more of these coaches who have seen what ball looks like at lower levels.
Yeah.
That makes me a little encouraged that the intentionality of what they're trying to do is in place. You're moving into this process not because you're like, oh well, I guess this guy didn't work out and this guy didn't work out and this guy went to Oregon and this guy went to Ole Miss and well, we'll take John Slaughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, not to bring him up again, but just using him as an example. I mean, we can go through and I can pick another one from you from last year's bunch, but
Yeah.
just using that as an example, there's an intentionality behind it. And again, these kids are betting on themselves, and not every gambler comes away a winner. So that's something to remember. However, for schools of Colorado's ilk, I think this is probably the way you have to do it if you want to have a team that can win you 6 games, that can
Right.
take you to a bowl game.
Hmm.
But again, I mean, you look at what Utah and BYU and Texas Tech are doing. You, Colorado isn't even close. I mean, it would
Right.
take some sort of miracle run. And by the way, their schedule's tough. And we've talked about how there's going to be other teams on Colorado's schedule that are going to go through a lot of what they're going through. So the hope there is that you can win enough of what we presume to be close games this time around that can
Yeah.
get you to that 6 or higher number. I just think setting any sort of goals above that is a fool's errand at this point, which, again, they'll talk about how they want to compete for conference titles, but I want to give them credit because it was clear they couldn't do the same thing. I think this is probably the best way to go. It doesn't mean it's going to work, but I do not knock the approach, and I see the vision for what Coach Prime wants. He talked about last year, he wanted harder workers, he wanted better leaders, and I think
Yeah.
you have a better chance at getting some of those intangibles out of a group like this than you would have last year's group. And when you go position by position, I think you can make the argument that they actually have upgraded a lot of spots. So
Yes. Hmm.
long-winded way of saying the transfer portal has changed, and there's a chance they're on the leading edge, but there's also a chance that it does not go well. So, but I don't knock the approach. That was kind of where I wanted to go with it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I'll say this: the portal's changing every year, like you said, right?
Yeah,
I think that I give a little leeway to this staff, Coach Prime and the staff, not only because he had the health issues and everything, but I think that they're adapting to a new way. The portal is very different than what he dealt with at Jackson State,
yeah,
and the portal that he had in building the 2023 or even the 24 team. Right? I think it's different a little bit than what he had last year. I think they're adjusting to it. And when I look at this group right now, Matt, I think I like how they've adjusted to it from this year compared to last year. And just speaking of the linebacker group, I will say I think that duo that we talked about, I like them better than the previous duo, French and Hughes. In that, one thing as I talk to people at both of their schools, they're both big time leaders. And that's a quality of what we know that this team missed last year, right? The other thing that made me feel bad about linebacker is they then went out and got Leona Lufau, who was a 2-year starter at Texas.
yeah.
I know he wasn't all conference. That's a guy that Sark relied on and trusted for a team that was in the playoff last year and a team that was near the playoff this year. That's a 2-year starter that was productive. All of a sudden, that linebacker group last year you kind of stopped at Hughes and French. This year you got those two lower level guys and you added the guy from Texas, right? Um, at safety, I mean, you got guys that were power four starters. Randon Fontenette from Vanderbilt. Boo Carter was not a starter, but he's got starter ability, right? Um, Jaden Hardy, nice player from Oklahoma. They went out and got some of these P4 guys. You look at and say, okay, there's guys that actually played and were productive for their P4 team. I think the makeup is different of this group that they've got this year, Matt. I mean, I think there's a lot more leadership. There is all conference guys, but from what I've heard talking to some of these people at some of these schools, they're actually leaders. I think last year they just grabbed talent. They're actually intentional on grabbing leaders. I think this year, not everybody's going to be a leader, but I actually like the approach, and I agree with you. When it comes to Colorado, this is the way to go, in my opinion, because I've often used the analogy. I've probably used it with you. I don't remember everything we talk about on all these shows, but um, I compare the Buffs to the Moneyball A's, and maybe I've said it too much, but like the Buffs are not going to do that. And
No,
this is actually a great day to talk about it because the Dodgers just made a splash with a
I know.
stupid contract for Kyle
Yep.
Tucker. Um, you know, the Dodgers are spending way more than anybody else is spending. There's a lot of teams that can't compete with that, financially, but they can compete with them on the field, and the Buffs can do that. I think the Buffs are not going to be in the market for the Shoheis and the Kyle Tuckers, right? You've got to find those guys that work for you. I like this approach. I think that this is a group that can win. And one other thing you mentioned, a lot of this group, and I went and counted 24 of the 36 are FCS or G5 guys. So you mentioned a lot of them are guys who want to prove themselves, maybe underdogs, they're overlooked. Guess who loves that type of person?
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean,
Coach Prime
it's the
loves
bad
those
news
guys.
Buffs. I told you. That's what
Yes.
I'm calling this team in 2026. It's the bad news Buffs.
But many of his favorite players have been
Yeah.
those guys.
The
He,
Rudies.
yes, and they're more talented than Rudy, right? You hope they're not Rudy's, where
You
the only
hope.
thing they do is make one sack at the end of
You
the end of
hope.
their senior year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, Coach Prime loves those guys, and if you get enough of those guys that are going to come in here and work hard, I think instantly they're a better team because of that. I'm not sure there was enough of that this last year, and so I think that's where I look at this, Matt, and I think they're not done yet. But I was telling you before we started here, I think across the board, I look at this roster as it's coming together, and I'm like, I think this is a better group than last year. Maybe I know we felt probably pretty good about it, after it was all put together at this time a year ago. But looking at the end result from 24, I think they're a better team right now than they were when they left Manhattan.
Yeah. My only concern here, and I would say this is probably just my realist point, I am nervous about the trenches. Losing Jordan sucks. I mean, you can
Yeah.
replace it, but make no mistake, he's a very very talented player. So
Yeah.
you're losing your left tackle, who is going to be one of the best in the country. That's a huge place. You got to start over. So, you know, we'll see if Larry Johnson earns the right tackle job, but presumably you don't necessarily project to enter the year with even one of the same starters on your offensive line. Now, yeah,
Right.
played. He
Hmm.
did start, and Larry was in and out a little bit last year. But again, I think with a totally new group, especially without Jordan Seaton, I think you just throw out everything and say you want that job, you think that's your job, then go prove it in spring ball and in fall camp, and we'll let you know if that's still your job, Larry.
Yeah.
Just to use him specifically. Defensive line's the same. They're undersized in some positions for
Yeah.
sure. Now, I like some of the things that they've done. That's my biggest concern so far. I don't
Hmm.
know that they have any difference makers there. I think they've got some guys
Yeah.
with potential, just my opinion.
Definitely
Um,
potential.
yeah, potential for sure. Like I can see what Lamont Lester can do. I can see, but he's 230. Like, is he playing this year? Is Talib playing this year? I don't know. There's a couple of guys like
Yeah.
Kamara's brother who I think can play, and I like the kid. What was the player of the year? And it's Santana Hopper, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
isn't that
Yep.
the kid?
Hmm.
I think he's going to be interesting, and like I said, there's some potential there, but
Right.
Colorado could not stop the run, and that group doesn't, like, on paper, strike you as the most stout group ever. So
Right.
it makes me a little bit concerned there. But as far as things that I like, the linebacker room, even though they profile similar, Gideon Lamprin is a player. He's a he's
Yep.
a he's a real player.
Right.
And again, you bring in boy, it's going to be almost impossible not to say Lufau. I don't know how we're going
I
to
think
make
it's
it through a
Leafau,
whole
right?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not saying Lufau is going to be almost
Right.
impossible.
Right.
So what's his first name?
Leona.
Leona. Let's just go Leona, okay? Because I'm just not going to be able to get through it.
He's a player, man. He's a good
Cefo's
player. I
too good
like
of a friend.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like what they've done there. There's some intriguing additions.
Yeah.
Justin Eaglin, I think that's a great pickup from JMU at corner. Like,
Yep.
profiles as a guy that's great, but again, I'm not going to get over my skis until we see a full spring ball of these guys and a full fall camp of these guys, because
Right.
there are so many new moving pieces. It's anybody who's really trying to tell you what this team is going to do next year, it's silly. The one thing that I think is safe to assume is they're not competing at the top of the conference, because talent
Right.
wise, I just don't think they're going to be able to. And so
Right.
I hope to be wrong. Excuse me. I hope to be wrong there, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I see where the vision is. And to your point, he's going to love this team. Like, he's going to have a million of his guys on this team. And
Yes.
he's going to love the fact that, like I said, they're harder workers. They can appreciate what they have more than I think probably last year's team did. There's a lot of those well-off clips where you see them, addressing the team in team meetings, where it's like, you guys don't appreciate everything that we have for you. You're not working like you do. And these are kids that profile like they should come in and work like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
The last thing I'll say is I think that you have the grounds for a lot of competition here. We said that last year. That didn't really play out like we thought it was going to in fall camp. I think it could be different this year, because I don't know that there's really too many guaranteed starters out of the guys they landed, except for maybe some of those receivers. I
Yeah.
don't know if I could really point to maybe Gideon. I think Gideon's a starter. Um,
I think Leafau's a starter.
probably, probably, and Martinez will be mixed in there. We'll see if they
Yeah.
do things different defensively and run as much man to man.
DeAndre
That
Moore's got to be a starter, right?
Maybe. I mean, Cam Perry's pretty good, man.
Yeah,
And
I know,
so
but I
is
mean,
Danny, and so is JoJo. I mean, that's three guys right there. So maybe DeAndre's, behind JoJo
yeah, I don't know.
and Danny.
He's starting to Texas. He's not coming here.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think JoJo's a better. I watch his tape. I think JoJo's a better player personally. I also think
Yeah.
Scudero's a better player. So we'll see. I am intrigued. They have tons of speed offensively now.
Yeah.
I think they're still
The
light at running back.
I would say the other guaranteed starter is probably
Eaglin.
Demetrius Hunter, the center.
Yes. Good. Thank you.
He's been Houston's starting center the last 2 years. They did add today, as we're doing this. Let me find this name. Sean Kinney from Lafayette, who's been the
Yep.
starting center there, who very good,
Yep.
but he's coming from Lafayette. I would pencil in Hopper or not Hopper, Hunter as
Yep.
that starting guy. So I think that's probably a guaranteed starter there. But um, yeah, there is gonna be a lot of competition, and you know, another one we haven't talked about this guy at all. Um, they bring in Isaac Wilson, who
Yeah.
I know, he wasn't great at Utah. Buff fans did see him once. He's the only quarterback that threw a touchdown pass on Travis Hunter in 2024. By the way, that was a phenomenal ball. By the way,
Yeah, it was.
um, but that's a higher quality backup quarterback than I thought they were going to be able to get in the portal. And I'll tell you this, as I talked to somebody, close to Isaac, he's been told that he's going to have a chance to compete for the starting job. And so,
Here's what I'll say. If Isaac Wilson comes into camp and is a better quarterback than Juju Lewis won't be starting the year. Like I just that's just
well,
not how Coach Prime works.
I'm
It ain't
just
how he
saying,
operates.
I'm just saying,
You're right.
my bigger point is you brought in a guy that at the very least is going to push Juju to be better.
Agreed.
And so it's not, I was worried that, in 2023, when Shador's here, you couldn't get anybody. I mean,
Mm-mm.
yeah, you didn't have a
He
shot
was
to have.
also his son. I mean, let's just be
Yes,
real.
but that's the point, is that you weren't going to get a quality backup because everybody knew that's going to be
Right.
the starter, and so they didn't have quality backups. And that's no offense to who was here. Ryan Staub was a true freshman. He was the number two. He wasn't quite ready for that, and so um, I think this is a good situation where you've got a backup quarter. Well, you got a quarterback here. I don't want to call him backup because I don't want to offend the Wilsons, because that they're coming in here hoping they can compete. But that's a guy that can come in here and push Juju, if at the very least make him better.
Has
And
Juju
and,
won a
and
game yet? Has Juju won a game yet?
he is not. That's why I'm saying. But that's my point, is that
Oh, no, no, no,
I,
you're
I
right. No,
was I was
you're
worried.
right.
I was worried that they were going to get bottom of the barrel
Yep.
backups to that. There was nobody to push Juju. I think Isaac Wilson pushes Juju, and I think that's a good thing. So that's your point of that competition, is I think that's a good thing. And I agree. I look around here, all these positions, and I mean, you got a Danny Scudero who led the country in receiving yards, and I'm not sure I would pencil him in as a starter right now.
I'd be surprised if he didn't. He's
Maybe,
pretty
but
good. He's a pretty good player.
he is.
We'll
But
see.
like, but with the talent they have at receiver, would you guarantee he's a starter?
No, no,
That's
no,
what I mean.
no.
Is that you got guys like that, and Zach Atkins might be the one. You probably pencil him as a starter,
Yeah.
but
They
the
didn't really
offensive
do anything
line,
there, did they?
no. They got Fisher Clements from UNC, and put Brady Kopetz on scholarship,
Yeah.
and they got a couple freshmen from this last year that they like, but um, offensive line, yes, you lose Jordan, but there is competition coming in. You got guys that have played and done well, so there is competition around. And I agree with you. I think Coach Prime's going to love this team because there's a lot of guys that have a lot to prove, and that's Coach Prime type of guys.
If he gets it to work this way, it's more impressive than building it up in 24, in my opinion. And I'm talking about, like, you win 8 games
Yeah,
doing it this way. That's more impressive than winning 9 with the Heisman winner.
yeah,
Um, so we've mentioned that before. I just think it would be a bigger accomplishment based upon the
yeah,
fact that it really did not look good at the end of the year. And you can add guys you're excited about all you want, but if it still doesn't look like a competent operation at times, that's a bigger problem. So the
yeah,
hope here is that Brendan Marion comes in and is able to dictate. Now, again, other concerns of mine, running back is still a red flag for me. It just is. I know that Marion brought in 2 guys that backups that he used there at Sac State. I just don't see any difference makers in that room, and this is supposed to be an
right.
offense that runs like crazy. So it doesn't scream to me like Coach Prime's really going to change his philosophy. He brought in a bunch of
Yeah,
really speedy guys. I think they're still going to throw the hell out of the ball, and I'd be surprised if they ran it a ton, to be honest.
I'm excited though to see a healthy DeKalen Taylor in this offense.
For sure,
Uh, he
absolutely.
he's one guy in there that I'm excited about.
He'll be
You
one
know,
of 2 running backs always on the field.
right. And I'm curious to see how Micah fits in there, but the 2 guys from Sac State will be interesting. I mean, Damian Henderson, I think was their second leading rusher last year. but he spent the previous 2 years at CSU and couldn't get on the field. Uh,
I talked to my CSU people, mixed bag on him.
yeah,
Talent,
yeah,
but off the field concerns there for him. So
and
we'll see.
hopefully with maturity and age, that's
Yeah.
out of his system a little bit. But Jaquel Smith was talented,
Yep.
young scatterback, scat back. But I think there's talent. But again, right now they got four scholarship guys. They got a few more spots to fill. I expect there to be one or two more running backs at least. I'd feel better if there's
Have we heard on
six.
Simeon?
He went in the portal the other day.
Simeon Price?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okie dokie.
just Wednesday.
Good for him. Good.
So
I hope he finds a place where he can play a lot because
yeah,
he's a really good young man.
he's
I
gonna
didn't see
need a
that.
medical red shirt, which I thought he was gonna get and stay here, but
How
he's
many games did he
not.
play
So
this year?
he played four. So
Wow, I'm pretty surprised.
yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay.
this was his fifth year this last year, but he only played the four. He'll probably get a medical red shirt.
So I
Um,
would hope that means they've got another. They need another running back. I mean,
I think they
that's
have to.
they
I
have
think.
to.
I mean, you've got four right now, and then you got
Don't play
three.
those stupid games you played last year because you
Right.
trust your guys. I mean, that was their approach last year, and we screamed it from the watch. I mean, it was just so bad.
But
So I
that's where look, it's totally different people that are running that part of the operation. And so I'm going to
It's
trust
not. It hasn't changed that much as far as their personnel, though. That's what I'm saying.
no,
Like it is
but as
totally
far as the
different people.
people that are making the decisions on who plays, uh, and I will
It
say this
has.
is
It has and it hasn't. It has and it hasn't.
well, I mean, brand new
Yeah.
OC, you got new running backs coach, all that stuff.
Yeah. Coach Prime's still there though, and it's
He
still his
is,
philosophy. He's going to have to
yeah,
change his philosophy to win playing this way.
right,
They're going to have to commit to running the football. They
right,
haven't gotten that in
right,
3 years. He really hasn't understood that in
right,
3 years. Like
right,
he really like I think he's a great guy. Have tons of respect for him. We say this a million times. He's forgotten more football than you and I will ever know. He hasn't gotten this part though. You want to
right,
win at this level, you have to be legitimately balanced.
yeah,
And it can't be like, well, it just didn't work out in our first 5 carries. Not this year. Not with Juju Lewis. Not with a whole
yeah,
new offensive line. You guys, I mean, that's where I'm like, okay. Like I'm gonna need to see it to believe
yeah,
it that this is gonna be a run first team because it's a run first offense.
yeah,
So that's where I want to know how serious he is to playing a different style because
right,
he said it 3 times now, and it has. We're going into year 4 here, and it
right,
has not transpired.
and
So I'm
right,
looking forward to it. That's all.
and to your point, they were much better running the football this last year, and there were a lot of games. It was most of them, I think, where they had more rushing attempts than passing attempts, which they'd never had the first 2 years.
Right.
But again, that was with Caden Salter, who was
And
doing
out
a
of
lot of that
pure
running.
necessity. And
And
out of pure necessity.
sure, but it was also, Salter's running the ball.
Right. Scramble
That's a
drill.
big part of
Yeah.
your run game.
Yeah.
It was you still they haven't had
And what did they finish rushing offense? They're still like over 110th.
yeah, it wasn't good, but it was almost twice as good as the year before. But I mean,
I'm just saying, like the
it's
bar is
still
off the floor and at your shins. Like, good luck.
in 3 years,
Yeah,
Matt, you haven't had a guy rush for even 400 yards in a season.
yeah, that's
So
bad. That's
that's
really
bad. And
bad.
so yes, the
Yeah,
running game was better, but when you don't have that,
yeah,
and it's not like you had eight guys with 385, you had two guys
yep.
that had 300 something. And so so yes, I agree with you. But this is where I'm going to put some trust in Brendan Marion, especially with a lot of these transfer additions. Like these are guys I think Brendan Marion, Coach Prime is too, but Marion has a huge say in who's coming in here. And if he's thinking, yeah, this guy works for my offense, when he's bringing in his Sac State guys, he's also been in the Power Four a lot. So he knows if Damian Henderson and Jaquel Smith can play at the Power Four level. He knows if Ernest Campbell can play at the Power Four level, the receiver that he brought in.
He at
He
least
brought
thinks they can.
he thinks they can. Jose Soto is a guard that he brought in. Is he any good? I don't know, but Brendan Marion knows what P4 talent looks like, and so he must, and he knows Jose, so he must think that's the guy that can compete for a starting spot at guard here. So I'm going to trust him on that stuff, and that's where I think there was a lot of lessons learned by Coach Prime this last season. He obviously was one. He said it many times. There's a lot I want to say, and I'm not going to. I think he learned. I think he was telling us he learned a lot this last year. I think this was a big growth season for him. He's said he's going to change. Now we got to see it. But I will say, whenever Coach Prime has usually said something, that's what's
Yeah.
happened. Other than maybe committing to the run
Other
game.
than committing to the ground game and stopping the run. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, so
But he was trying to stop the
he
run at
was
least.
trying. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, trying.
Yeah.
So look, again, and I think, again, from a positive standpoint, I think they really focused on trying to find better fits at linebacker and guys who
Yeah.
are going to do
Hmm.
well. Even if we compared those guys to French and Hughes, I don't think that we're going to see that trajectory follow the same path, but it
Yeah.
could. So we'll
I
see.
like
And
this
again,
linebacker group better than what they had last year.
for sure, agreed.
Yeah.
And corner's a concern for me, big time. Be honest with you, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen there. I will
Hmm.
say year 4 of Deion Sanders, and maybe the biggest surprise is that he has not turned CU into a cornerback factory. I don't know what's
Yep.
missing there. Like that, it's kind of embarrassing for him, to be honest with you, that
Yeah.
he hasn't been able to do that. And it's not like he's come close. Like he's had two pretty good. You may maybe make the argument he's had what, 4 good corners in 3 years, right? With Travis and DJ and Preston and Colton, right? Like I think you can make that
Well,
argument, but
and
not all at the same time.
that's a disappointing thing. I mean, look at he had not had a problem bringing in talented cornerbacks.
Yeah.
He landed Cormani McLean.
And after that failed, you
It,
think that kind of changed?
I don't
Yeah.
know, but I think that was the first one. I mean, he lands Cormani. Travis obviously is different. Travis is
Yeah.
Travis. Uh, we agree every time we talk about Travis, that's a different category, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But he brings in Cormani, but that didn't work out, and Cormani leaves.
Yeah.
He has Colton Hood. Colton Hood played really well in 2024. Then
Mhm.
he's gone, and he shines somewhere else. Um, who else were you mentioning? I mean,
But again, that's him evaluating that position and determining that he doesn't need him in that room and being remarkably wrong. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
or
Being
or
remarkably
or
wrong.
if what we've heard is true, that it was them determining they didn't want Brandon Hood, and Colton was like, "Fine, I'm out too." I
Well, what a mm,
yeah,
what a blunder that was. And
yes,
and again, I mean, there's no defending that. So
that's all I've heard. If
yeah,
that's exactly how it happened, that was
I mean, how dumb do you have to be?
you
I
keep
mean, was the
Brandon,
kid bad in the locker room? I'm just saying,
especially
like, geez,
because you could have probably used Brandon a little bit of running back last year
hell
too.
yeah. I mean, the whole that was so we don't need to
That
rehash
was
that,
the
but
dumbest move. The point is, you're right. I mean, they had Cormani McLean, they had Colton Hood, they had DJ McKinney, who had a good 24. I thought he got better in the second half of 25. He did not play well early last year.
mhm.
Preston Hodge, had some moments. He's had those guys, but it yes, now you're looking at, you got Justin Eagle, you got Emery Floyd from App State. They were both, they were both
Ryan
good at their schools. Um,
Deion Sanders. I'm
I know,
just saying, like,
but
it's
I'm saying,
crazy.
I know, I'm saying they're not like terrible at corner, but I mean, RJ Johnson, we'll see. Makari Vickers, there's
I think they're incredibly average at that position at the moment
exactly.
in
I
time.
agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying there's some interesting parts, but I'm agreeing with you in the fact that, like, how are some of the top corners of the portal not here?
I don't understand it. I don't get
That's
it.
what we expected, right?
Yep. Oh hell yeah.
Is
Yeah. Well, he told us.
right?
He told us that was how it was going to go down. So I don't know what else to say. Like
Yeah,
I just and it was a natural assumption. So again, I
but
think
it,
there's still time to add at that position.
it is interesting though. And I know the portal era is different, but you had 3 Hall of Famers on this staff last year.
Yep.
You don't bring in elite corners.
Don't
You
bring in
didn't.
an elite defensive
You didn't.
tackle.
You didn't bring in elite defensive tackles, and you never brought in an elite running back.
And I'll tell you, I think
Why?
part of
Why
it
did
is
guys not want to play
age.
for these Hall of Famers?
I think part of it is age. I mean, these kids don't know, didn't watch. I mean, I was barely, old enough to watch Coach Prime play when he was a
Yeah,
player. You know what I'm saying? Like these kids don't know Deion Sanders outside of Coach Prime. Warren Sapp. I mean, he's not even on. He hadn't been on NFL Network in years. I doubt a
yeah,
lot of these kids, know who those guys are. Marshall Falk. I mean, yeah, he was MVP, and I remember, watching plenty of them. But I mean, that was a long time ago. So
right,
I think like the name brand value recognition probably means more to the parents, but at the same time, you know, you got to appeal to the kids, and I think that has. Well, I think it's great, and some kids, definitely are drawn to it. There's been a lack of proven placement in the NFL from these guys too. Like,
Right.
Coach
Yeah.
Prime's whole thing is NFL, not NIL. And if you want to come get prepared, well, you got to put guys in the NFL. They're not putting
Yeah.
anybody in the NFL in this draft, I don't think.
Right.
I'd be surprised if anybody got drafted this year. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. And look, my point is all these NFL and gold jacket guys you touted, and guys don't want to. I mean, it's not like
That's
you.
not like it's not the be all end all that
These
it
guys
could have been.
weren't a magnet for talent, right? There wasn't guys that just flocked to want to play for these guys. Um,
And they
I think
also
that
haven't been ultra developers either, quite frankly.
the
Like,
the players we would talk to,
yeah,
that were here, they thought it was awesome learning from Warren Sapp and Marshall Falk and Deion Sanders, things like that.
yeah.
But again, you're not getting Thorpe Award winners that are coming here or Thorpe Award candidates. You're not getting, uh, the top running backs in the country that want to play for Marshall Falk and the defensive tackles want to play for Warren Sapp. And so I think maybe that's another thing that Coach Prime is. Hopefully, he's looked at and said, you know what, just get good coaches. I don't know. I
I don't know
I
that
think
I would say that Warren Sapp and those guys aren't. I like we talked about this last year. Falk did a
I don't
good.
know if they're not, but they weren't attracting the talent like maybe
No,
people
we
thought they
expected.
would.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not.
I
Definitely not.
won't say that. I'm not going to say they weren't good coaches, but they weren't attracting. What's obvious
Yeah,
is that they did not attract the talent that maybe you would think they would.
yeah. And the one thing that I think Brendan Marion brings to the equation, hopefully, is a plan
Hmm.
offensively. There were just too many times last year and the year before where game plan was such a problem. And that is one hope that I have that now without Pat Shermer, you can actually scheme to take advantage of an opponent's weaknesses.
Right.
Robert Livingston's got to
Hmm.
do a way better job at taking things away this year. You got to take something away. I mean, that's when Belichick sits down and creates a game plan. That's the first thing. What are we taking away this week? And that's one
Yep.
thing CU has did last year a very poor job of. The year before, they did it pretty well on different
Yeah.
occasions.
Hmm.
Not all the time, not exclusively, but certainly better than 25. I would say that the speed on offense intrigues because you do have a really good, I think, better group of receivers that you can rotate in overall. I like Cam Perry out of Miami, Ohio a lot. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't know how much he
Yep.
ends up playing, especially because he feels like just a carbon copy of Quentin Gibson, who feels like a carbon copy of Ernest Campbell. Like you got a
Yeah.
lot of guys
Yeah.
at that size, so should be good competition. Lack of big bodies.
Hmm.
I would like to see them get a big body receiver in here. I know they have Hakeem Williams, which I think is really big that you didn't lose him because I
Right.
think there was some fun stuff, but they need another one, at least one more of those guys, and another
DeAndre
good tight
DeAndre
end,
Moore at
man.
least is 6 foot, 6 foot 192, and so
I'm
that's
talking
certainly.
6'2" top plus like
I
that.
know,
I'm talking
but I
six
mean,
four. Give me a guy who go get the ball. Like that's what I'm talking about.
yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying compared to 5'9", 154 Cam Perry, 5'9", 174 Danny Scudero,
5'9",
5'9",
145. Ernest
145
Campbell.
Ernest Campbell.
Yeah.
DeAndre Moore is massive
Yeah,
compared to
no,
those
it's
three
true. But
guys.
that's kind of my point is like they're going to
Yeah,
be undersized in
yeah,
some areas. And this team, I'll tell you this right now, they're not winning any awards to getting off the bus. Last year's team may
yeah,
have won all the getting off the bus awards, but then didn't win anything on the field. This group is, like I said, it is the bad news Buffs.
yeah,
It is the group who's been counted out, doubted, overlooked. The goal here, I think, is you find a few big fish and surround them with overachievers instead of underachievers from a higher level. You have
yeah,
overachievers
hmm,
from a lower level, and
yeah,
you don't have as many big fish as you should have. They definitely should have done a better job retaining some of these kids that they lost. There's no question. A lot of talent walked out of that door.
yeah,
Um, that's something they need to examine why that happened. And I'm sure money was a big part of it in a lot of instances, but it definitely wasn't exclusive, as we
right.
spoke about in our last episode. So overall, I'm happy. I like the addition of Josh Niblett. Right? I mean, he's one. Yeah, was he tight ends coach? Right? In that right?
Yeah, he's a tight ends coach. Yep,
Guy who's won a ton of high school state championships in Alabama, really, really well
yep,
regarded.
hmm,
Brendan Marion brought in some of his guys. So we talked about this. If you want to hire some of the best coordinators in the game, you're going to have to let them hire coaches who they feel comfortable with teaching their stuff. And I do give credit to Coach Prime because it feels like he really let Marion have a little bit of leeway with some of that this year.
right.
and to run the go-go offense, if that's what they're really going to do, if they're going to fully commit to it, which I don't know why you hire Marion without doing that, but
Right.
um, that's where I'm like a little on the fence with this whole running back projection and the lack of size at receiver. You tell me those 5'9" guys are going to be good blockers, I don't buy it. Like I,
Well, yeah.
I
And that's
so
where this is where I hope that Coach Prime will just put his trust and hand over the reins of the offense. Brendan, this is your deal. I obviously Coach Prime had a hand in a lot of it. Um, I'd love to see him hand it over to Brendan Marion because it's his offense. He invented it, right? And so I'd like to see that. I'm trying to look up. I can't
But
remember
you see
the.
what I'm saying, right? Like, I mean, you bring in two running backs from Sac State, who, again, you
Mhm.
talked about the credentials. You bring in all tiny guys outside. I mean, that does not scream. You don't bring in really another tight end who is going to play for you right away.
Right,
How are you going to run the? This is the same. These are the same conversations that we had last year,
right,
and that's where I go, okay. Well, I can tell you what ain't going to work: running the go-go offense without running the ball. That ain't gonna work.
right,
And if
right,
that's Coach Prime's plan to do some sort of hybrid version of it, I got news for you. Change it now. Change
right,
your plan now. That's
right.
a bad plan,
Yeah,
bad one. And so I'm very confident in saying that.
yeah,
And I hope, I really do, that he's had those realizations. Um, there's so many times when he will be like, well, you guys don't know the whole story behind the scenes about, this, that, or the other. He chooses not to tell anybody. So
right.
he can kind of lord that over everybody and use that as a built in excuse. One of my favorite parts of this year is that there are no more excuses for him. Now your coaching is on display. Like
Yeah,
now, this is a big prove it year for him that
yeah,
he can actually develop and coach at this level effectively without real star talent,
yeah,
without name brand talent at most every position.
yeah,
And in the past, when he's had less talented teams, he hasn't succeeded. So this is his chance to rewrite the narrative there. And I think he can do it. I think he's brought in a much better group of coaches overall. I think that the ones that are in place have a lot of proving themselves to do. And if there was so much going on behind the scenes last year, these kids were knuckleheads, they weren't showing up to class, they weren't showing up to meetings, this thing didn't happen, that thing, then we should be able to see it on the field this year.
yeah, yeah.
If there was so much that they weren't responsible for that the players were, we should see it day one on the field this year. And
Right.
if it's not, that's a really good opportunity for some self-reflection for the more senior members of this coaching staff to look in the mirror and go, okay, where's my culpability here? What
Yeah.
is something that I'm doing that isn't working that I think should but still isn't? Like there that's what this summer is. It's a Coach Prime audited the team after the Utah game. You've got to audit the team as you go through the summer to figure out if this is the right approach, because you do get an opportunity to add grad transfers at some point here down the line if anybody pops up, which
Yeah.
here's the other part of this, Bry. Every year Coach Prime has been here, they have made significant additions in the spring portal after seeing what they saw on the field in the
Sure, but
spring.
they also had that spring portal window.
That's no, no,
You
no. We're
can't do
saying this.
that now.
We're saying the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Every year they've done that, where they
Yeah.
brought in the first crop and then gone, okay, well this didn't really work out and that really wasn't
Yeah. Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
and and
Mhm.
and and saw where their holes were and added. They had to get it all right in one try this year. You can
Yeah.
fill them in with grad transfers. That part is also going to be fascinating to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you would be disingenuous if you covered CU or you talked about CU to not acknowledge the fact that each of the last 3 years there have been major overhauls after spring ball.
Right.
After spring ball, there have been some big changes, so they don't get to do that this year. So I
Yeah.
hope they hit at a higher percentage.
Yeah. Because they knew they whiffed in December, so let's fix that in April.
They did
Yeah. Yeah.
every
Yeah.
year.
And
And they got some big players in the spring too.
yeah.
Xavier Hill. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, there's a
Yeah.
bunch of guys like that.
But and look, when you talk about Coach Prime too, as far as you talk about his coaching being on display, his first year without Shador also coincided with his health issues, and he
Yeah.
talked a lot about a lot of what happened this year was he wasn't around. That won't be an excuse this time. At least, I mean, I know it's
He
January,
never
so
used it as one, but we did, because you get a free
but
pass
he
when you have bladder cancer and you
he
have
didn't
leg
he
surgery.
he didn't necessarily use an excuse, but he did say it was a factor,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I meant
So
like he didn't blame it on that. He was just more like, no, I'm sure that contributed. That
yeah,
was where
yeah,
I
yeah.
was coming from.
I know, but it's still one of those things. I mean, it's early. You hope he doesn't have any health issues.
Oh God, no.
But he may not have. I mean, he's going to be here hopefully. And so, one big change too. We talk about offense, but defensively, you got Chris Marve coming in,
Yeah.
linebackers coach.
Yep.
Andre Hart's still here. He's going to be an analyst, it looks like, but he's not the guy at linebacker. And I think that's a good thing. I like Coach Hart. I always gotten along with him, but that's a group I think every year has not been great. I think in 24, what you had was Nikai Hill Green was a really nice pickup and a really good player who helped to elevate Levanta Bentley, and they became a pretty good duo. But even then, those guys weren't the starters at the start of the year last year. I
Mm-mm.
mean, Nikai Hill was coming off the bench at the start of
Yep.
2024. Um, but linebacker has been kind of
Yeah,
bleak.
they went through all fall camp and didn't make him the starter. Yeah.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
it became obvious a couple games into that season, but um, I think that's a change that could be good as well. And so,
Yeah, no, Hart has had some very questionable evaluation at the linebacker position. I think he's a nice guy
yeah,
too. He's not done a very good job here. I think he got a lot out of Levante Bentley. They were
yeah,
able to bring Nikai Hill Green along, but their recruiting at that position has been horrendous.
yeah.
Um,
I think Nakai got a lot out of Levante too. I mean,
yeah, I do
Levante was a
too.
good player, but we
Yeah.
saw in the bowl game against BYU without Nakai,
Yeah.
Levante was exposed a little bit too. And so I
And
think they were
last
just a
year
good
they
duo.
And last year they didn't think Sean Myers could play because he struggled in coverage at times, and instead they put two guys who couldn't stop a nosebleed,
Yeah,
at that inside linebacker position because they were enamored with their athleticism, even though they weren't better downhill players. So,
yeah,
and we've disagreed with Coach Prime in person on that one. He knows how we feel on that one. So,
yeah,
um, look, I think they've done some things to address problem areas, and they've done what they can. They're doing the best they can. Whereas I think last year there was more criticism from me where it's like, okay, I don't, you're not really changing things. I
yeah,
don't know why you think this is going to be okay because Shador covered up so much. But they changed a lot this year. They
yeah,
did, and I
mhm,
I don't blame their approach, except for I question the fact that I know they haven't had a tight end be successful in their system, so maybe they just can't bring anybody in. Everybody looks at what they do offensively and I'm like, are you kidding? But if you're going
yeah,
to run the ball, I mean, I know it's all sleight of hand and unbalanced lines and two running backs, and it's a gimmick offense, which is what it is.
yeah.
Um, that's the part I'm going to need to see that succeed at a high level here
Right.
for that to
Mhm.
work out. And I think if you're going to have an offense like that, you've got to have a defense that can hang in there and battle.
Yeah,
I I question what they have up front, and I question what they have in their secondary. But they upgraded the linebacker room as of now, and we'll see how it looks moving forward.
yeah.
But
And
yeah, as of right now, I mean, how many corners do they have on the roster? Like three?
no, they have seven.
Do they?
Yeah, because they
Who
have,
who are the returners from last year? RJ
well, just two, RJ Johnson, Makari Vickers.
and Vickers. That's the one I
Um,
meant. That's the one I forgot.
Justin Eaglin, Emery Floyd, we
Yeah.
mentioned those. James Madison and App State were both starters. They're both quality players there. Um, an intriguing one to me, Cree Thomas, who was a true
Yep.
freshman at Notre Dame
That's
this
right.
last year. He was, I think, a four-star guy coming in this last year. That's an interesting one to me. Preston Ashley, coming in as a true freshman.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
see.
you know, Talented
It's
player. I
so
mean,
hard to play on defense as a true freshman. I mean, it's
correct.
almost impossible.
He's going to be more down the road, I think.
Yeah.
But and Maurice Williams is the other freshman. So, but you got guys. I mean, there's talent there. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know what
We'll
that looks
see.
like. Safety. I do feel better about that. I mean, you have Boo Carter, you have Nathan Mitchell, who we haven't mentioned before, but that's a talented guy too. I mean, that's one that when
Yeah.
I talk to people at Mexico State, when Tyler Martinez got hurt, Nate Mitchell was the one who stepped up as a leader, and so you love hearing that. Randon Fontenette was, I think, a 2-year starter at Vanderbilt. You still have Ben back there, who um,
Do
these
you?
guys should be.
I know he said that, but are we sure he's coming back?
Yeah, he's still here, as
Okay.
far as we know.
Because he was doing that WWE tryout I saw,
Right, but
which is cool.
I think he's still here.
Ben would
eh,
be a good wrestler.
yeah, yes,
He'd have a great personality for WWE.
he'd be a good showman, that's for sure.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
wrestling
That's
is.
what
Yeah.
wrestling is, right? But those guys they brought in should, I think, should be playing over Ben, but like you know. that's good depth there. Jaden Hardy from Oklahoma adds some good depth as well. Um, so we'll see. They don't have a they don't have a punter yet. No, they have a punter. They don't have a
No,
kicker.
Greaves is back.
Greaves, I meant that. Yeah,
Well, they
Greaves
got
is
that
back.
kid from Grambling.
Yeah, he's the kickoff guy, and then I
And
think
they
their
they also
kicker.
have the Elliot Arnold kid,
Yes,
right?
I think he's going to be their kicker,
Yeah,
and
they're really
so
high on him.
they're high on him. So I don't know why I said they didn't have a punter. But yeah, inside linebacker, we talked about that. You also have Kylan Salter that's back. I don't know if he pushes them at all. And you got three freshmen coming in. I think you need another. I'd like to see another veteran come in at linebacker because they got
If they
those
can get
three.
one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've gotten three. If you can get a fourth, a guy that profiles a bit like those other guys, that'd be big.
I'm
Defense,
more defensive tackle,
right,
offensive
right.
line, tight end, or running back,
And I
and
don't mean a lot. I
corner.
mean, if you got 10 spots, one more linebacker.
What's the official number
Um,
on total guys right now?
there is no official.
Oh,
I've
I
got
mean, what's
70.
your official? By
I've
the
got
way, hold
72.
on, hold on. I want to give Brian some credit here. Your number is the official number. Your numbers are better than CU's numbers.
Well,
CU's, yeah, I'm gonna just keep it right there. Go ahead.
let me just say this. My number is 72, but what I'm not including is a few guys that and Adam has a different number because he and I don't know the answers on this. There's about three or four guys that we think could come back, but we're not sure if they are coming back yet. Guys like a Philip Houston um, could actually come back. Mana Tamani might be able to come back. If he does, do you leave him at defensive tackle where he finished, or do you put him back at offensive? And Savell Smalls could maybe come
Oh,
back.
I don't think so.
I
He
think
was pretty upset with the way everything went down last
I'm
year.
he's one that's on he's on Adam's list because there's a
Okay.
question mark on him. Simeon Price was on our list too, but he's gone now. So there are a few guys. There's 72 to 75,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
And look, Coach Prime's never taken,
He's never
as
taken
many
85.
as he could. I think
Yeah.
last year it showed that they should have taken some more because they just were so hurt at so many different
Yeah.
positions. So I wonder if
And
he ups those numbers a little bit. Look, you hold seven. What's that do for you? It's not like he's bringing in a bunch of high school kids. There's no
yes,
point in holding scholarships.
I don't understand it. I mean, he mentioned it that first year I asked him about it, and he kind of got on me real quick. He cut me off and said, "Are those guys going to play?" And he mentioned something about holding those because then you got them for uh a late ads or something like that. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm fine with have two or three of those spots.
Take
But
like
even now,
10 project guys. Like, I mean, geez,
yeah,
I mean,
but
even
even
that.
even now, I mean, you can go to 105. It's just CU chooses, and a lot of schools choose to stay at the 85 because of the costs involved.
I was gonna say it's
So
probably monetarily related. Is
even
probably
if you got to eight, even if you were at 85
yeah.
and you had a couple guys that jumped on the radar late, you can still grab them, be it 86, 87. But the problem is last year they went in with like 77. And
Hey,
like, what's the point of that?
yeah. Transitioning. Is there any other football notes you had in mind?
No, is there something you had in mind?
Well, I was just going to ask you because the one thing about Fernando Lovo, the new athletic director, that I think has been interesting is just his willingness to accept new ideas.
Yeah.
If you had, based upon your time around Colorado, I was just thinking about this the other day. If you had like a list of three things you'd like to see done to improve things, what would they be?
Oof,
Putting you on the spot.
you are putting me on the spot.
Hmm.
With football?
Well, anything, Colorado, anything sports related at CU.
Ooh,
You and I are both not just football guys. So
yeah. Well,
curious.
I this has been a thing for a decade now, but the west side of the stadium.
Yeah.
I think that would be number one on my list is
Yeah.
fix that west side of the stadium, upgrade that. That'd be number one. Um, this is one that it's more I've heard from fans because I've never been a fan out there. But a lot of fans say that the game day experience is not great at CU for basketball or football. That there could be it's better in other venues. And
Mhm.
Lovo has told me it's huge for him, improving that game day experience, making it a fun event for people, which, you know, it might sound like, okay, whatever, but that gets more people in the seats, which gets more money and, more energy and can actually help you win games, especially in basketball, I think sometimes when you have that crowd. Um, a third thing, I don't know, more
Okay.
commitment. I mean, I think for CU as a university, more commitment somehow to the basketball programs
Yeah.
because I think you have to go all in on football, but I think that they've done that to too much of the expense of the basketball programs.
Yeah, unfortunately. And look, if Coach Prime were having more success, it would be a different story. But
Yeah,
because it's just not what he touted it to be when he got here, well,
yeah.
nobody's not grateful, but he's just not crushing it here. You know, I mean, he's done a
That's
good
it.
job compared to his predecessor, but he's done okay overall.
If they were in a bowl this last year,
Yeah, that would be
then
different.
you say, yeah,
Yeah,
keep
yeah, that
going
would be
all in.
different.
But it's
Yeah,
hard to put all those resources into football, especially for
yeah.
those other sports. If you're basketball and you're watching all those resources go to football, and then they go
Yeah.
3-9,
Yeah, I think you have
and
to
you're like,
audit. I think you have to audit the football operation at the end of this season, and
yeah,
you kind of have to let Coach Prime prove it to you this year. And
yeah,
and it's a big prove it year for him if he wants to finish out his contract because the reality is he's making a huge salary for a guy who's bringing in FCS talent. You could go
yeah,
find a bunch of other coaches around the country that could bring in this caliber of talent to CU. So,
yeah,
I think that's one thing that I've been kicking back and forth in my head. It's like eventually, if you want to be paid and recognized as one of the best coaches in college, 4 years is a good ample amount of opportunity for you to have built
right,
some sort of structure here. You know, extenuating circumstances aside, it really doesn't matter by the time you get to like year four. And Colorado will have to evaluate whether it makes sense to continue to invest in football like this. And I know a lot of people be like, "Of course it does, of course it does." The reality is CU has really struggled to get any sort of sustainable product with
yeah,
football. And now that college football is the way that it is, it might make more sense to divert some of those funds into other places. You might get a bigger return on some of it, even though sure you're going to sell out a stadium. So
yeah.
yeah, you're going to talk about ticket revenue, but shit, in 2022 they sold everything out. I mean, didn't they? It was damn near close. Like
23,
I'm
yeah.
what do you, no, 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 I'm
You
talking
said,
about 22. I meant 22. Those crowds were ridiculous for the
oh,
first half of home games. I don't know if it was full sellouts, but it was pretty
they weren't.
close.
So there was, yeah, there were. I think the Cal game was sold out because it was family weekend, but
No, okay, official sellouts, but I mean, how
yeah,
many official sellouts were there this year?
I think 3 or 4.
Were there at the end of the day?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, like I
Of the
said, that's
seven,
two
I
more,
think,
two, three more than 2022. It's just
yeah,
not going to
yeah,
be. My point is it's going to be a negligible difference at the
yeah,
end of the day. And yeah, no, Coach Prime has some earning it to do here, back, and certainly in
yeah.
front of a new boss.
One thing I wouldn't do, regardless of how good this football season is, well, say for winning a national title, regardless of how good this football season is,
Just commit more
I would not renegotiate and give a new contract after next year.
to who?
Coach Prime.
Oh God, I don't even. To be
But
honest with you, I don't think Coach Prime would sign that.
oh, of course, I think he would. But I mean, I think if he got a raise, there's just this
Yeah,
tendency.
there's no need to give him a raise right now.
There's just this tendency in sports that like, hey, you have a 5-year deal and you had a great year. Let's renegotiate. I would resist that temptation because CU still has struggled. It's still been over 20 years since they've had back-to-back good seasons. Let's see it 2 years in a row before we even think about a new contract.
They're maxed out unless they're legitimately competing at in the
Right.
national lane. And I had this discussion with somebody the other
And
day.
there's a lot that has to happen, by the way. I'm just saying
Yeah.
if it's this great year,
No.
I would still just do it again.
No.
You
But
got
I'd be
plenty of time.
surprised if he would have any interest in coaching in college more than his current contract. He's getting paid too much money to turn it down and just retire unless he
Right.
hates it.
Right.
But
Right.
why would he want to keep going this way? This is not what he envisioned
Right.
when he took this. Unless
Right.
he goes to a bigger school, which I don't even think he'd want to do.
I don't think he will.
Um,
No.
yeah, so I think this will be like this contract will be his college coaching chapter, and
Yeah.
then he'll probably go back to TV and make $1 gazillion a year. So as you
Right.
should. I mean, this is not being critical of him. I just like wouldn't we all love to have those type of options in
Yeah.
life?
I'm not
So
critical about it. I think that's something he's earned.
oh, 100%, and he
It,
should. Quite
when he gets to
I
that
don't. I
point,
wouldn't want to coach in college football right now. That would suck. I mean, honestly, doing this every year and doing it one year, it's worse than coaching in the
wouldn't you
NFL.
sometimes rather be on the Thursday night football set
I know, I
than
know,
coaching
I know.
college
Yeah,
football?
something like that. Anyway, the point is that yeah, I'd like to see There's been for the better part of 20 years, a real sense of complacency in Colorado's athletic department. I really want to see Fernando Lobo shake that up. I'd
Yeah.
like people looking over their back. Really good people. I
Hmm.
think people who have gotten very, very comfortable at
Yeah.
their jobs because there's
Yeah.
been very little real oversight to a lot of these departments. And I hope Fernando Lobo, as any good boss would do, comes in and makes people feel uncomfortable while
Yeah.
making them feel comfortable because I'm just talking about like people that fans wouldn't know about. Um,
Which is, frankly, that's what Coach Prime did in 2022 when he got hired.
yeah, I mean,
With,
yes,
with
I'm
the
talking
foot,
about yeah with the football program.
with the,
Yeah,
and I mean, some other areas as well.
yeah,
But
yeah,
he was very good at making some people. He
yeah. There's
changed a
just
little bit.
been as far as the game day atmosphere stuff. There have been many people I know that have proposed a bunch of ideas that have just been shot down because it would take
Yeah.
time and money, and I think that's a really bad way to run things. And there's a lot of that that's happened over 20 years, which is why the University of Colorado lost all relevance.
Yeah.
And that's why they bottomed out, is because they didn't have a good enough stewards of the program, maybe of the tradition and legacy, but not of the actual program to push it forward at all levels,
Yeah.
in all roles. And that's something that I think he really needs to sink his teeth into, where a younger guy without ties who's a little bit more ruthless needs to have that approach to
Hmm.
it. Colorado, there needs to be a lot more. We're not playing feelings, we're playing football. We're not playing feelings, we're playing basketball. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
got to be a lot more of that in Boulder. And it doesn't mean you're pushing people out, but it does mean that you won't accept status quo or what's
Right.
been done before. And that's a big part of it for me. I would love to sit down and pick his brain and also share some ideas with him as just a couple of people who've been around. I know you had a chance to
Well,
do that.
you know what we should do? I'll talk to you off here.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think
But
it
yeah.
would be fun. I think it would be fun to have a chance because, he's the one thing I heard him say was he's gonna be listening a lot, like the first six
Yeah.
months of his of this job, which I think is important. I
Yeah.
do. But he doesn't have a long timeline because if football has a bad year this year, boy, I don't know what in the world it's going to look like next year. So
Yeah.
if it even makes sense to really keep barreling down this road with heavy, heavy, heavy investment, I don't know
Yeah.
if it does.
Yeah.
They're going to have to show that it doesn't, and it doesn't mean that you would get rid of Coach Prime or whatever. But as I said, why is he getting paid as one of the best coaches in the country right now? Right, and
Right.
and that's
Hmm.
what he has to reestablish is that look, he's earned it based upon what he's done, but does he deserve it every single year? As we all do in our own jobs, what is your value to your company? What is your value to whatever you
Yeah.
represent? Right? Unless you
Go.
own your own
You got to
business.
earn it every year, and
Every year, man.
he didn't earn it this last year.
No, definitely not.
You got to go earn it this year.
Yeah. And
And
again, I know a lot of people hear us say these things and get upset. You all have to understand, Brian and I are actual, journalists who separate personal feelings from our jobs and do
yeah.
things objectively. And if we're not, we'll tell you straight up we're biased or we've been close to, or
Yeah.
we'll give you our perspective. The one thing you and I are not are dead homers ever.
Right. Hmm.
And so I think it's important if CU actually wants to be. Here's what I told somebody the other day, and they got very upset. Colorado is not relevant nationally right now, not in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And they're like, well, that's not true. No, it is. They are
It's
not
true.
relevant.
It's
They're
true.
not relevant whatsoever. In 2 years, they're back to being and now it's not as irrelevant as they were, not as
Right.
irrelevant as a laughing stock, but they are
Hmm.
entirely irrelevant in except for skiing or cross country or shout out soccer and volleyball who had really good years. But as far as like your
Their
moneymaker sports,
coach is not irrelevant,
no, no,
but
no. But he's a celebrity, and
right.
that's what they are.
Right.
They're a
Plenty will
middling,
still get written about Colorado
yeah, because they have a
but
celebrity head coach.
right.
That's why.
Hmm. Yep.
But outside of that, they are irrelevant.
Yep.
And the one thing that he did a good job doing was bringing relevance to the program again. And I think that I don't know how you do that with what he has. I think it. Oh boy, the Dan Lanning line just came to my mind. You've got to be rooted in substance. Like as
Yeah.
crazy as and as pissed off as people are going to be that I use that line. I
But
don't know
and
how else
no,
to say it.
but I'll agree with you. But I'll also say I think that that's been a big part of what Coach Prime's trying to
He's
build.
trying.
He's
He's
trying to
trying
build
to.
back this offseason. I think
Yeah.
when I look at what he's done in the last month plus, I think there's more substance being built
Yeah, I
than what
agree.
they had throughout 2025.
I agree. And again,
So
some of you won't understand these conversations. Some of you get mad at us for having these conversations. These are very real, very relevant
yeah,
discussions.
yeah.
So they're all things to think about. And yeah, you talked about the game atmosphere stuff with Fernando Lovo. Nah, I'll just hold that one. I'll hold that one. Yeah.
Okay.
It just kind of ties back into the settling for complacency and
Yeah.
being okay with mediocrity and stuff like that. That's a huge attitude in the athletic department that needs to be kicked to the curb for
I think
sure.
it will be. I think, he's young and energetic and
Yeah.
not I'm this is not any indictment of somebody, but Rick George was that way when he was that age too. But and Rick's got a lot of energy for mid 60s, but it's different when you're 37, right? You bring in youth and energy, and Rick and I talked about that. I said, there's some people that look at maybe his Fernando's age as a detriment. I asked Rick, I said, do you think there's a benefit to that? And he goes, absolutely, because he brings in, some of that energy and new ideas, things like that. So, Rick and I talked about that he's excited about the energy and ideas that Fernando's going to bring in. So, and look, Rick did a really good job at CU. But even he's told me, he's like, look, they need, when he stepped down, he said, it's time for them to get somebody that can take this to a different level than what I got it to. And the fundraising wasn't where it was at the end. Fernando's got to bring that back up
Badly.
badly.
Yeah. It's his number one priority.
And he's told me, like, look, he goes, empty parking lots around our facilities mean money's not coming in, and he wants the facilities used
Mm.
for different events. So that's a huge thing. Every time there's a concert at Folsom Field, it's a seven-figure moneymaker for the athletic
Oh,
program.
buddy.
So,
Buddy,
um,
this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, and at least a part of it, the complacency in that department
yeah,
over the years of just being okay with being okay and being comfortable. That's where they've screwed up, and
yeah,
it's a big part of the reason why they are where they are. And a lot of those same people are still in place,
yeah,
and probably need to be some big changes. So,
or at
I'd
least
be happy.
energize those people that are there. That can happen too.
You got a year.
Yeah,
You got a year.
I'm not one that's considered to say, yeah, let's move on for people, but
Got a year.
sometimes people can get sparked by new leadership.
I look forward
Let's
to
put
it.
it that way.
I
So
look forward to it because it's happened a couple of different times and I
yeah,
haven't seen it yet. So
well,
I
we'll see.
look
But
forward to it.
but this is the first athletic department
That's
leadership
true.
change in 13 years,
Yeah.
and so we'll see. And the college sports are way different than they were 3 years ago, let alone
Yeah.
13. So, well, man, I think we'll wrap up the discussion with that. Let's get together again soon as the portal completely wraps up and
Yeah.
we can really start to dive in more to this roster. But hope things are going well with you, and good luck to your Bears.
Mm.
And we'll see if these two teams can get through this weekend and see how it goes.
All right, buddy. Take care of yourself. Have a good weekend.